As someone who's worked in the heating and air for years, I've been in countless older homes across the Twin Cities, and I can tell you there's one thing that keeps me up at night: asbestos. This stuff was everywhere in older buildings. Insulation, ductwork, pipe wrapping, and disturbing it can release dangerous fibers into the air. That's why I want to tell you about solutions for asbestos-free environments. Acronym: SAFE, S-A-F-E. And trust me, that acronym says it all, because safety is exactly what they deliver. They're certified by Minnesota Department of Health and fully compliant with EPA and OSHA standards. We at Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric use SAFE for abating asbestos during older boiler and gravity furnace replacements. Our electrical team relies on them when drilling through asbestos sidings and floors. I trust them with my customers' safety, and that says everything. Whether you're replacing that old furnace, renovating, or buying property, SAFE provides professional inspections and certified removal services. I've seen what happens when people skip the inspection and just start tearing into walls. Don't take chances. Visit Asbestos.Services to learn more and schedule your inspection today. That's Asbestos.Services, ASBESTOS.Services, because your safety matters.
From working in his family's Chinese restaurant, to bartending, to becoming present-day owner of Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, my father's true superpower is human connection. Now, he's on a mission to capture the most fascinating stories that make up the Minnesota community. You're listening to the Twin City Tales podcast.
Today's guest is Jackie Vvintre, founder of Vvintre Living, a luxury residential cleaning company here in the Twin Cities. But Jackie's path to entrepreneurship is anything but ordinary. From earning a full Marine Corps ROTC scholarship to battling Hodgkin's lymphoma at 21 to launching her business during COVID, also losing a child along the way, Jackie has turned every setback into momentum, starting with just herself and family members. She's grown Vvintre Living from the ground up and is now closing in on that $1 million mark before turning 30. Her story is about resilience, hard-won lessons, and building something meaningful against all odds. Let's welcome Jackie Vvintre to Twin City Tales.
Hello.
Good to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
You know, you're always so happy whenever I see you, and with all the challenges that you've had in your past, it's just great to be around that, right? Like, yes. We just want to be around happy people. And where did you grow up, Jackie?
So I am originally from Illinois. Lived there till I was about like 5 or 6. And then my mom's job moved us out to Idaho for a couple years, and then moved back to the Midwest, Minnesota, and pretty much grew up in Burnsville. So I was there like 5th grade all the way up. So I would consider Burnsville home for sure.
And you are Blaze.
Yes, Burnsville, home of the Blaze. Yeah.
Yeah. People don't remember they used to be called home of the Braves.
Yes, yeah.
But because of some political incorrectness, they said we got to change them to the Blaze.
Yes.
Big fire.
Yes.
No pun intended.
No, I
And then after like growing up in Burnsville, you kind of joined like the Marine Corps, like as a Navy Sea cadet.
Yes. So what that was, I was actually, I started the program when I was about 10. And my dad had actually been involved in that program for many, many years as like an instructor. So he went into the Marine Corps and then he was able to, come out, and then he found the program. And with that, I did that from 10 to 18 pretty much. And I absolutely loved it. I learned a lot of just different things where it's like, very disciplined, things, and you learn about responsibility, and then you learn about teamwork and all this other stuff too. So I definitely attribute a lot to how I was raised with, kind of like that program, because it's like you go once a month and then, you get to see all your people. And it was just like a whole other world in a way. So that was super fun.
Awesome. Do you need to be like a strong swimmer to be
No.
in that Navy Sea cadet?
No,
Because that's not what I think about.
No, we did like swim quals like maybe once or twice a year. I do remember like one of the scariest things that I did, because you go to like boot camp at Great Lakes where they actually have like the actual naval boot camp. And I remember we had to like pencil dive off of like a 13-foot diving board. And that was like one of the most terrifying things that I've ever done, where it's just like, if anything, like they definitely work with you. Like if you're not a strong swimmer, like, you know, they have different levels, but in order to get like an achievement or a ribbon, you had to, you know, do specific things, qualifications for that. So,
Wow.
yeah.
You know, I always think of when you say Navy Sea cadets, I'm thinking there's SEAL training right there, but it's probably not as bad.
Definitely
right?
not. They're not going to do that to like a 10-year-old, but you definitely get a lot of influence from, you know, the different branches where I know we had a lot of like Navy corpsmen, and then a lot of reservists. You know, you get the Marines, you get Army, National Guard, you get a little bit of a mix of everything. And then like Seabees. So I actually did a training like over the summer that was like 2 weeks long. Did it, I don't know, I think like 3 or 4 different times. And I really enjoyed that Seabee training, because the Seabees is like, we build, we fight is their motto. So we would have like 1 week of learning about construction and, you know, how to build things. And we would do that 1 week. And then the other week would kind of be like war fighting or war tactics, and learning about, you know, you carried your rifle with you the whole time. And then you do like different, I don't know, just like different tactics out there, different formations. You have your fire team leader and then like your platoon leader, everything else. And it was just really interesting, just kind of being immersed in that. And then I remember like everyone get super excited where at the end of that week, after learning all these different things, you would basically go to like, they had like a fake town. So we called it like the Mount Town. And there's just like a bunch of like open buildings basically. And you would just have like this firefight basically happening. And it was so interesting because the officers put so much time into it, where it's like they would have like fake IEDs and like fireworks and like all this other stuff to make it like feel like you were very immersed into something that could be real, in terms of like, it's dark out, there's loud noises, you don't know what's going on, you know, trying to like, you know, just get through that. So that was very unique experience, I would say, for, you know, someone that's like 12, 13 years old, because it's like, where else are you going to get something like
you're
that?
You're playing war games at that age.
Exactly.
We're kind of like real, right?
Yes,
like you're getting it from the professionals instead of like me running around with my buddies at 12 playing war in our backyard in the woods, right?
Yeah, no, it was great. But I definitely do miss the program. And, you know, it was just something that I would, if anyone is, you know, interested in terms of like with that, their kids going into, it's a great program to, you know, kind of get into. So
I never even thought of that as like a different activity, right? Like, because when you're young at that age, you're enrolling your kids into, I don't know, gymnastics, Girl Scouts, right? Which is maybe the same line, but I feel like that's something that would be really cool for kids that are like, hey, you know, I'm kind of interested in some of this, some military stuff, right? You don't have to be like a psycho to be into military, but I think some people think that way, right? But I don't think that's necessarily true, which, and just knowing a little bit about your story, it helps you like overcome challenges and things like that, which is huge for the kids these days.
Yes. I think one of the major things is that I learned was like problem solving, where it's just like, well, it's funny because I have 2 other sisters. So I have an older sister and a younger sister. And so I started the program first because I was interested in, you know, pursuing the Marine Corps as I got older. And my mom actually put both of my sisters in the program because my older sister needed a little bit more discipline in her life. And then my younger sister tried it, was not for her. It was like kind of like you could see the differences that it would bring out. But I think overall, it's just a great program to keep, you know, you mentally focused, where it's just like, okay, we're going to have people yelling at you. You're going to do like these physical training things. You got to do like these obstacle courses. And it just teaches you a lot of different skills that you wouldn't learn at school or in Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just seems so different. And in case our audience out there listening, they can see us on YouTube, but you're also sitting down. But
Mhm.
I gotta admit, Jackie, when I first see you, I'm like, she's tiny.
I am,
Is she really
yes.
gonna be like like this Army, military, Marine Corps boot camp person, right?
Yes.
And now that I hear that, I'm just thinking, and after that, I'm like, she's tiny but mighty.
Oh yeah. No, and that was something that I mean, with my height and size wise, like throughout that whole program and stuff, like in high school, I think the most I ever weighed was like 105 pounds. And it was just like, it was insane because you would have to try to keep up with some people who are like way taller than you. And even going into like the ROTC stuff, where it's like we would do rucks with like these packs. We would be carrying like between 70 and 80 pounds because they're, trying to prep you for officer candidate school and everything else. And it's like, okay, that's like almost my entire weight. And then you've got like these 6-foot guys where it's like, maybe they're like 200 pounds, but it's like, it's nothing for them. And then for me, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to, keep up with the longer strides and like carrying this weight. But it's just like, it's something where it's like everyone's held to the same standard. Everyone has to do, the same things. And I feel like it definitely motivated me more to be like smaller because then I was like, okay, I have to work my ass off to like try to, make sure that I'm keeping up with all the guys and all the other, women and everything else too. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I've read a little bit on the Navy SEALs,
Yeah.
and I always consider like the Navy SEALs as a team, best of the
Yes.
best of the best, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I've like read some stuff on them, like they like put them through some rigorous training, and it's not the guys who are super huge that make the SEALs team. There's some smaller guys that are like making the team, and it's not because they're so much more athletic. It's that they just have the mindset, right? And the biggest thing for them is trust.
Yep.
And I feel like that's what you've probably learned a lot, how to work with trust and not just be trustful, but understand how to create trust on teams.
Yes.
It's amazing.
I know. When you say that, it's like, it makes me think of we had different trainings that we would do and stuff. And in our RTC, I actually remember this one where it's all about, leadership and teamwork and everything else. And following, basically like putting the mission first. And I think, when I think about it in terms of like with teamwork, we had one thing that we'd always do where it's just like when I lived in New Orleans, this was where I was doing the RTC program. And we had a team of, I want to say there were like 4 of us and we were carrying a stretcher. And on that stretcher, you have like one of those, dummies that weighs, I don't know, maybe like 80 pounds or something like that. And you have your team of 4 where it's like, if someone's not carrying their weight in that, it's like you can definitely feel it or keeping up with the pace where it's just like, that mission was to work as a team to get, this person on the stretcher from point A to point B without, obviously injuring them or throwing them off or whatever, but in a timely manner too. So teamwork is definitely huge. And I definitely think that kind of, falls into like with business and everything else, where it's just like, if you don't have a good team, it's not going to, work out very well, where it's like trying to find the weak points, and correcting those things too. So.
Oh, yeah, good stuff. Military is fantastic. And you were in the military, or you actually signed up for the military after the Navy Sea Cadets.
Yes.
And how long were you in the military for?
So it's like a weird path, or I guess, where it's like, so right out of high school, I received a full ride ROTC scholarship. So it was like $180,000 check that they presented me with, type of thing. So I was originally going to go enlisted, and my mom was like, okay, how about you apply for this scholarship? Cause I'm not going to sign the paperwork. And then like, basically if you don't get it, then, we'll go ahead and sign it and you can go enlisted, whatever else. So I was like, okay, I'll try for it. And I do think that the Sea Cadet thing kind of helped, me get to, receiving that scholarship. Cause it's a very, kind of like sought after thing where it's like very rare that someone would be able to get that. And so I got that and then went to school, down in New Orleans. So basically I signed up with that was in the ROTC program for about, I would say, I want to say like a little bit over 2 years, because then right before I was supposed to go to OCS, I started having some of the health issues that kind of lead into, getting diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma and everything else too. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. So you were registered,
Yes.
but you didn't end up serving.
Correct.
Because
yeah.
of
Because
the Hodgkin's.
correct.
Like,
So
kept you out of
it was a little bit different with ROTC, you have like your Navy counterparts and then Marine Corps. For the Marine Corps side, they did not, count you as a Marine until you went through officer candidate school for that program. And that was the program that it's like you basically get, pinned on to be an officer, where it's like with the Navy, it was a little bit different where it's just like, you were kind of considered it, but you weren't actually like a full-fledged officer until after, you went through your 4 years and then got commissioned, but they didn't have like, a training school basically like the Marine Corps did. So I basically went through and did all the training and everything else that I could within that time frame. And then I didn't end up getting to, go to officer candidate school. So it's a weird thing where it's like I was in, but I was not in at the same time. So yeah, it's just a very weird path. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was challenging. I'm sure that was like kind of like your dream at the time, right? Like,
yes.
Like you don't know, but it's like you were the Navy Sea cadet since you were 10.
Yep.
And you're actually registering to
yes.
do military work at 18.
Yep.
So you had a passion for it. So that's like a setback, right? You're going, oh my gosh, now I got this Hodgkin's.
Yep.
What was it like going through that Hodgkin's diagnosis?
It was very difficult. So I had a couple biopsies done where it's like, so I was actually home for break, and my mom was working with me doing, like, she was helping me doing like a cleaning and everything else. And I basically just started to feel just super unwell, where it's like I started getting a swollen lymph node in my neck, and it swelled up to like a pretty decent size of like, I would say maybe like half of like a baseball kind of thing. And so it was pretty significant. And then I was having like night sweats, fevers for like, it was probably like a 5 or 6 day, fever of just like, 103 to like 106, I think was the highest. And so, I went into, I got admitted to the hospital and everything else. And so they did a biopsy on another lymph node, didn't find the cancer. So they're like, okay, like it's not cancer. Let's keep trying to do, these other things. So then I was kind of just, they were pushing like, prednisone, which is like a steroid, and then a lot of other pills. But I just remember having like this pill box where I was taking like up to 15 different medications a day. And it was just like to help with inflammation or try to, ease things. And I was seeing a rheumatologist and getting blood work done, I think maybe like once every week or once every 2 weeks or something at that time. And it was just a lot. So then after a few months of nothing's helping, whatever else, there was something, I think I had like this blood clot almost type of thing that like came out of my nose. And then that was the point of like, okay, need to go back to be seen again, because nothing was improving with, the medications and stuff. And so went back to the University of Minnesota, got readmitted. I had a bone marrow biopsy done, which that is like the most pain that I've ever been in my life. It's so gross, where it's like they kind of, they're like screwing something into your back basically to try to like pull out. It was so icky. And then after that, they didn't find anything. And then I ended up having another biopsy done on the actual lymph node that was being affected, which was the larger one. And then it was after that. So it was probably like 6 or 7 months after going through all these different tests and everything else that they were like, okay, you do have Hodgkin's. We need to get you on chemo like ASAP, since so they said that I was at like stage 2B. So it's like out of, 4 stages. So it was still like developing, but it obviously wasn't, at that stage 4 level. So
Do you still go? I mean, I guess I can't say that I know what it
No.
feels like, right? But
Yeah.
I think if somebody tells me, Wyman, you have cancer, I think the first thing that goes to my mind is, how much longer do I have to live? And then also like, oh my gosh, this, and I'm sure it's up and down. Like some days you're like at the times where you're just like, I feel really good. I'll just beat this thing, right? Like
Yeah.
not a problem. But then there's days where you're just feeling like crap and you're just like, oh my God, how much time do I really have?
Yeah. And I would say it was very scary, whereas like, I remember the exact moment that the team came in to tell me, and it was like, my mom had been staying with me in the hospital, and she went home to go like shower, change, whatever, like eat, and then she was going to come back. And I had like, there were like, I was kind of like surrounded where it's like there was like 4 or 5, I don't know if they were doctors and nurses, whatever they were. They came and they were standing, at the foot of my bed saying like, oh, is your mom here? And I was like, she just left to, go whatever. She'll be back like in a couple hours. And they're like, okay, we think you should call her. And I was like, okay. So I'm trying to call my mom, try to call my dad. And it was one of those times where it's just like you have news to tell someone, but then no one's answering type of thing. And I was like, okay. So then I was like, all right, what's going on type of thing. And so then they told me at that time, they were like, okay, well, we found that you have Hodgkin's lymphoma. So we have to start, the chemo process. So it felt very surreal, where it was just like in that moment, I felt very alone, because it was like, I obviously, like, my mom was with me and everything else throughout the whole time, but it was like in that moment, it was no one basically. And so that was very tough. And then I had asked them, is there time for me to like kind of like freeze my eggs, where it's just like they were basically going through and they were saying, you're going to lose your hair. You may not be able to have kids, like, these different side effects from the chemo, all this other stuff. And it was just like, you can't do anything about it, where it's just like, they were like, Hodgkin's is one of the more curable cancers that you can have, which it's great, but it's like, it's also like kind of a slap in the face too, where you're just like, okay, great. Like, but it was a lot to take in. And yeah, it was around my, 21st birthday type of thing. So it's like, wasn't going to be able to go, celebrate and, do all those normal things that, 21-year-olds do. So yeah, it was just a lot, right away. So
was it, not only was it physically challenging, but it's also emotionally challenging, right?
Yes, yeah.
Ooh.
I know. So it was like like you said, where it's just like, I feel like prior to that, I had a couple things that happened in my life that were kind of like harder hitting. But this one changed me a lot mentally, I feel like, because it's like you said, you don't know if you're going to survive or not, even though it is one of the more curable cancers to have. I feel like my mindset definitely changed, where it's like, am I going to live? Am I going to be here in the next like 2 years type of thing? And it's like, that was constantly on my brain. And then even after I got through chemo and everything else, when they're like, okay, it's gone, like the thought in my head every time I was like getting sick or something, when I would always be like checking my throat for my lymph nodes and everything else. It was just like this fear that's in the back of your head is like, is it coming back? And it's like, time, I feel like obviously helps with that, but it's one of those things where it's like, it could realistically come back at any time, or it could, just having cancer, it opens up other doors for you being more susceptible to other types of cancer. So it's always like in the back of your head of like, when I get sick or if I'm not feeling well, I'm like, okay, is something happening, or am I like overthinking it and stuff like that?
But
too.
I don't think you can get away from that, especially with what you went through, right? With the chemotherapy, and I can't imagine taking 15 pieces of medication. That's almost like a meal. That's got to upset your stomach in some way, I would think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of challenge.
It was a lot. And I was very lucky that, so with my friend group that I had at the time, it's funny, we would have like chemo parties is what we called them. So anytime that I would have like my chemo session, I was having them like every 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks or something. And I had like that list of dates set up. So I would always, reach out to my friends and be like, hey, does anyone want to come? Where it was like, we'd go to the University of Minnesota hospital. We'd basically like rotate who was in the room because I'd be there for, like 2 to 3 hours basically. And so they would all come, we'd hang out, kind of play some games or, do something like that while I'm getting infused with the chemo. And then afterwards, we'd go out to eat. So there was like a Cane's over there. There was like a pizza place. Like it would just kind of depend on the thing, but we would always just try to make, something good out of it, where it was just like anytime I came, like the nurses just anticipated, okay, like she's going to have her friends with her type of thing. So yeah, it was great to have that support, I would say, which definitely helped a lot. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So then you go through that.
Yeah.
Then a few years later, you end up, were you, and maybe I didn't get enough on that, but I know that you lost a child.
Yes.
Shortly after that.
Yes. So I was, I don't even remember I think it was like 23, I want to say. So me and my husband Matt, he was actually in the Sea Cadet program with me. So we knew each other, but we were never, involved romantically or anything like that. It was more of just like a friendship, everything else in that time frame. And, we kind of went our separate ways, ended up reconnecting when he came back to Minnesota after he was done in the Marine Corps, because he was in the Marine Corps for 5 years. So we kind of like reconnected, got coffee. We're like, hey, how's everything going? Whatever else. One thing led to another, started dating, everything else. And it was actually honestly just like a few months after we started dating where it's just like I ended up getting pregnant. So it was very unexpected, but it was also like one of those things where it's like we had known each other for so long that you don't have to kind of like, you basically skip the whole awkward.
Yeah.
Like, hi, I'm so-and-so. Here's been my last, 10 years, whatever. It's like we kept up with each other basically. And so, yeah, it was very interesting with that where, I didn't think I was going to be able to get pregnant because of the chemo. So that was a huge thing. And then with, so Raiden is my son's name. And so was pregnant with him, went full term, like didn't have anything wrong with the pregnancy at all. And it was basically like I went in for like on my due date to go see the doctor to get checked, see if I was dilating at all and whatnot. And then they set an induction day for like a week after. So they're basically like, okay, if you're not progressing, then this is the day that we'll, kind of give you some medication to help you dilate and then get the baby out, whatever else. And within that week, I went to the doctor like 3 different times because I was having like pains. And then I was like, my water broke, like, the 3rd time that we went in basically. And the first 2 times that we went into the doctor, it was fine. Like they reassured me like everything's good. They had the heartbeat, everything else. The 3rd time that we went in, it was on a Sunday night. There wasn't, too much going on. There was not a lot of people to, chat with or anything else because it was later in the evening. And, we definitely felt that Raiden's death could have been prevented if something had gone differently in that 3rd time that we went. Or it was like the nurse that we had was very just kind of like nonchalant about a lot of things. And she's like, oh, I saw that you were already here, 2 other times this weekend. What's going on? Whatever. And she kind of made us feel like very, I don't know, kind of like we were bothering them in a way where it was just like, we asked her, I was like, I'm pretty sure my water just broke. I'm now experiencing like greenish discharge, which is usually, meconium, everything else. And she was like, well, we'll do a swab test for the amniotic fluid, basically. And they didn't do any, like, we didn't see a doctor at all, the entire time that we had been there or anything. And it was just like a very weird situation. She was not listening to us, and we felt like we couldn't really turn anywhere else. And we asked her, okay, like if we come back tomorrow, like, would they, admit me, or do we have to wait for our induction day on Tuesday? And because this was like, 2.5 days away, basically. And so we ended up like waiting, and I was like in a lot of pain. And they ended up just giving me like morphine to just kind of like be like, all right, just, kind of handle the pain. It was, she was saying it's going to get a lot more painful and everything else. And I'm like, okay, I get that, but you're not like, I wasn't feeling heard, basically. And so then when Matt and I went in on Tuesday for the induction, so we went in the morning instead of the evening because we were supposed to go later that evening. And so Matt dropped me off at the front, where it's like, he wheeled me up, everything else. And then he had to go, grab our stuff from the car and everything else. So he was out, doing that stuff. And then the nurses were hooking me up to try to find like, the heartbeat. Usually this is a very quick, process with the machine that they use. And so the nurse right away, she was like, oh, like, I'm having some trouble. Like, let me go get a different monitor. This one might be broken or something like that. So she went and she did that. And then the next thing was like, oh, I'm having trouble finding it. I'm going to go grab, another nurse to help me, try to locate it. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, immediately that something is wrong. So then another lady came in, they left without being able to find it, grabbed a doctor. And this is all while Matt's like still trying to like park the car and everything else. And so then the doctor came in and she told me, she was like, we can't find his heartbeat. And then like a couple minutes later, Matt walks into the room and he was like, he walked into like a wall of like very heavy, feeling of like, he's ready to go. Like, he's like, I'm going to be a dad, everything else. And then walks in and it's just like a completely different tone. And he's like, what happened? Like, is everything okay? And so then, the doctor told them that they weren't able to find Raiden's heartbeat. And it was just like a very surreal moment where it's just like, I was overdue. I came in 3 different times. I was told that everything was going to be fine and that I had no concerns that I should have been, having basically during that time. And so then it was just like, still had to go through the birthing process where it's like, that was one of the most like mentally like weird things that I've had to do, where it's just like, you have to, give birth to this child who in your mind is going to come out, or there's going to be some type of miracle or whatever, when it comes out, they're going to cry, that you're going to hear them, everything's going to be fine. And it's like doing that and just having like having a stillborn, was just like one of the like most mentally, challenging things that I've ever, had in my life, where it's like, you give birth to some, to a baby, and then you're just holding them, and it's like, you're holding their lifeless, body. And it's very hard, because then it's just like, you don't have a lot of time to, be able to hold them or to take pictures. And it feels kind of weird in a way, because it's like, they're lifeless and everything else, but it's like, you also want that time with them. So it was very difficult for everyone. And it was also during that time of like, it was after COVID, but it was like, they weren't allowing a lot of visitors to come.
Yeah.
So that was also difficult. They did make an exception for us, where we were able to have like 2 people up at a time. So we kind of rotated our family members to come see him, and, take some pictures with him and everything else. And then I think maybe like a week later, 2 weeks later, we had a service for him. And so it was very hard, just to kind of go through all of that stuff, where it's not something that you expect. And it's like, you're prepping that whole 9 months to be a parent. You're putting together like the nursery and gathering the clothes, and you have your baby shower, and you have all this other stuff. And then to go from I'm going to be a parent to I'm a parent, but my child isn't here is like, I always compare it to like, you finish the race, expecting, like a medal or something. And then you don't get anything at the end, where it's just like you had all that time and effort that you put into it. And then at the end, like you're left with nothing. And it was, yeah. So Matt and I went through a lot of different, kind of just like, emotions, and we definitely went to like a retreat to meet with other parents and everything else over at Faith's Lodge, and that was great to connect with other parents that kind of went through losing a child as well, and that was very therapeutic. But yeah, Matt and I, we were like, can't let this kind of tear us apart or separate us, where it's like in a lot of cases like that can occur, where it's like if you grieve on your own separately from your partner, it's going to pull you guys apart. And then it ends up, just ending the relationship. And that was really something where it was like, it occurred so early on in our relationship that I think, it really brought us together, kind of going through that together. So,
wow.
Yeah, that was a long,
yeah.
No,
No. Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm getting kind of a little bit like, I mean, I gotta admit, this is a business podcast, but it's really it's not a business podcast per se. It's everybody has a story, right? And I mean, this is the reason why I wanted you on this show, because I just know about this story and I know how hard business is already.
Yeah.
And then going through what you went through, and I know like how you're telling the story, it's very emotional for you. And I think we all have different ways of making sure that, you're just amazing. I mean, it's just like, I know you're smiling through this, but the pain is so deep that I almost feel like, what else is there for me to do? Because I bet you've cried so much over this. And I can't imagine.
Yes, I've told the story so many times. And it's like we tried to pursue, legal, things and everything else, like malpractice and everything else. And it's just like there was not enough evidence to try to do that. But it's just like you retell the story and it becomes like it turns, for me, it's more of like the sadness turns into anger. And it's just like, it's so frustrating that even happened, where it's just like you think about it, where it's like, this year in February, like Raiden he'd be 5. And it's just like, that's something that's so hard to like think about, every time that we have a holiday or a birthday or something come up, then it's just like, oh gosh. Like,
or seeing other kids at that age too.
Yeah. So, but it's definitely been something that it definitely drove me to push harder for my business, because it was just kind of like, for me, I have a little bit of an avoidance thing where I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna, put my head down and just work, basically. So I definitely started getting into that, after everything, where it was just like I needed something to focus on. And, through that, being able to put that time and extra effort, energy, whatever, into the business really helped me get to where I am now. So,
and, it's kind of funny when you started talking about the litigation thing and, kind of going, oh my gosh, that it's kind of their fault, which probably it is. I don't know the whole thing, but I think the one thing that, at least for me, and I'm just kind of relating it to like a situation where it's loss, right? And it's also like a grieving process. And I have to admit, in my own business in 2016, I actually not lost a business partner through death, but just a business partner who I'm very careful with this, because I don't want to go down that road of saying that he did the wrong things, because I don't feel it was right. But on the other hand, it was the wrong things, and it hurt.
Yes.
And the first 2 years coming out of that, I've been blessed because I built something at Twin City Heating and Electric. But that first 2 years, it was just me and just starting to build. And I always said at that time, like, I'm just building this because I'm building something for people on the team, right? I want to build something that's going to sustain 30, 40 family members in this community. But the whole time I was doing it, it was anger. I just wanted to get back at my ex-business partner because I was like, I'll show you. You know what I mean? And it's not a good way to go.
No. But it gets you far.
It does get you a little further, but eventually you get to a point where you get stagnant, and that's what happened to me. I know your goal is to get to $1 million. Yes. I did that within the first year, but also different businesses, right? Different pricing structure.
A lot of different things.
But and it took me the first year, but it was like I hit a ceiling all of a sudden at 1.5 million, and I had a business coach, Stephen Crawford, who kind of helped me unlock that anger. Like, I have to let go of that anger to be able to do that, to get to that next level. And it'll be interesting to see, like, I know you're pushing through a lot of stuff, and some of it's avoidance or whatever. And again, I'm not proclaiming that I know everything about business, but sometimes that avoidance might be another block once you get to a certain point, right? And so that'll be interesting to see that. And again, maybe it isn't, but there's different challenges.
No, and I definitely agree. Where so like you said, with a business coach, I just started working with my business coach last year. I think it's coming up on a year, or maybe it's just surpassed. Yes, Ed.
Great guy.
Love him. He's awesome. He has 100% changed my thought process on owning a business, running a business, the things that I need to focus my time and energy on. Where it's like you said, anger will only get you so far. And then it's like you kind of get stagnant, where it's just like, I feel like I did hit that point a while ago. And I'm like, okay, the business is okay. How can I, do more, get more out of this, and just progress out of that hole, basically.
Yeah.
And there were so many things that, he's taught me in such a short time, where it's just like, are you doing this and this? And I'm like, I don't even know what that is, or I haven't thought about that. Yeah. And I definitely think it's crazy how much a business coach can be so many things in one, where it's like, it's almost like they're a mentor, they're a coach, but they're also like therapy in a way, where it's like not exactly that, but it's just like they do help you unlock like more potential, and they're able to look at things through a different lens, and be like, okay, why are you doing this, this way, when you could be doing it these 2 or 3 other ways to, achieve the same thing, maybe a little bit quicker and stuff like that. So.
I always liken it to that they unlock the crap between your ears that's holding you back. It really is.
Yes,
And again, I mean, I think once I understood, like, the anger was there, even though I had written down, like, I want to build a company that can sustain 20, 30, 40 people, right? I finally was able to get over that by going, okay, I need to just let that go on what my ex-business partner did, or how I felt about him, because I'm sure he had a different perception too. I'm sure he's seeing it a different way, and I have a different perception, whether it's right or wrong. It's my truth. And once you can get over that and go, okay, it's something that I probably needed to learn in business to do better. And yes, maybe I would never have them back in my life, but there's a certain amount of that I had to work on, that I had to thank that time that I went through, even no matter how bad it was, it's part of my process.
Yes. And I'm definitely one of those people that believes in, and it feels tough, but it's like, the everything happens for a reason, or it's mostly like something good will come from something bad. And it's like, I'm sure you learn so many good lessons out of that one bad thing, but it's like, maybe you wouldn't have learned all that if that hadn't happened at that time. And it's like, it's a lot of heartache, and it's a lot of everything else, but it's like, big picture wise, you're like, well, I wouldn't have learned how to do this or that, or whatever coming up.
I know you're kind of like, I'm still amazed, because I gotta admit, none of my troubles was like life or death. Yours was.
Yes.
And that's what's really amazing about your whole story, right? Because for me, I feel like, and maybe I'd react to it differently because I've not been there before. You're the only one that knows. I always hate when people say, "Oh, I understand how you feel." No, you don't.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you right now, I think if I had your challenges before business, I would be in the curled up in the fetal position with my thumb in my mouth, and I would never get out of that position, right?
Yeah.
And
It has been hard, I will say, where it's just like I don't know, my family and I have like been through a lot where it's just like even prior to that, just like so not like before any of this stuff happened, I actually short story. I was involved in a car accident when I was 16. And so this was like the major turning point of am I going to drive again, or am I just not gonna, like, I feel like that was a big thing where it was basically like me, my mom, my grandparents went with me to go get my driver's license. And so we drove over to like the Chaska DMV. I got my driver's license on the first, try everything else. And on our way back home, we were going to go celebrate at Culver's, which was the place that I was working at the time. And we ended up T-boning a tow truck. And we were probably like a mile and a half away from this, from Culver's. And we were in a Kia Soul, which is a very tiny car. And the tow truck basically like failed to yield. I did not have enough time to react to it. And from that accident, my grandmother passed away immediately. You knew she was gone. And my grandpa was sitting next to me. We were all like, I remember like coming to, kind of like I gasped for air. My grandpa was, next to me, like I said, and he ended up getting a lot of, broken ribs. My mom also suffered, broken ribs. She got a brain injury and then, broken clavicle. And my grandma was, I looked back, I remember this, and like you could instantly tell that she was lifeless. And so once my grandpa was able to get out of the car, there was, paramedics on scene and everything else, but that happened, as when I was 16, and that was a whole other, it's like my life has been like a series of traumas within, and it's been crazy just to see where it's like you said, a lot of people will take, if that happened to them at 16, they may not get another car again. I still have, like, my sister knows this, but it's like, she could work on her driving a little bit, but it's like anytime I'm with her in the car and she like stops, like suddenly I like feel myself kind of like locking up from that, where it's just like it's just a reaction type of thing. But at that time it was like, kind of just like getting through that. And I feel like a big thing is, again, having that support to be able to get through those things. And at that time, like I had my family, and then, my boyfriend at the time, like way back when, like he actually helped me get into driving again, which was a huge thing. Where it's just like having specific people in your life at certain times to help you cross those bridges and everything else. So that's my little tangent, but wow. I was like, no, it's a lot.
You've seen a lot in one lifetime, to last forever, that people don't even come close to even one of those. Yeah. Oh my goodness. And, I kind of, on this podcast, I try and keep things flowing. And one of the things that, the premise on this podcast is to get to know your story, right? Yeah. And right now, I know your story is a little bit longer, and we haven't even got to the part like, how did you get to that? To cleaning, right? And but your story is so amazing, in that this really, for you audiences that are listening to it or watching this podcast, I feel strongly like with those challenges, how can you not go? I can move forward. Mm-hmm. Just even hearing Jackie's story, like half the stuff that if that happened to me, I would be done even trying to figure this out, right? Go work for somebody or,
Right.
just, man, it's, this is really good stuff, Jackie. And my next question really is like, you went down to New Orleans to go to school after all this.
Yes.
So let me get the chronology right. You went to see the Navy Seabees
cadets,
when you started that, and then you get in a car accident.
Yep.
You still are driven to get into the military.
Yes.
You then find out that you got Hodgkin's lymphoma at the age of 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, let me go back to 16, right? You lose your grandma because of a car accident that you just got your driver's license in.
Yep.
And then you end up going to Hodgkin's lymphoma. You beat that, and then you end up falling in love and having a child, and that child ends up being stillborn. I mean, it's just like, hopefully it's just three things. Now your rest of your life, right?
That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah.
And like I said, even after two of those, I would be done in the fetal position. I don't think I just have to have people tell me where to go and what to do and not even think about entrepreneurship, right? But and then after that, you're just like, hey, let's go to New Orleans for schooling.
Well, yeah, and I was already down in New Orleans for the ROTC stuff, and then it's when I came back home that's when we found out about the Hodgkin's. But basically, that timeline was came back home, did chemo for 6 months. I was doing some online courses for the ones that I could do. They required some to be in person, so I had to basically wait until the following semester. Went back down there. I just loaded up my class schedule because I had like I think it was like six classes left before I could graduate, and I was like, I am graduating. I'm not gonna just like blow it off basically. So I went back down to New Orleans for that last semester in what year was it? December of 2019 is when I graduated. And then came back up here basically was my thing. And it was basically like as COVID was starting, it was like right after my graduation. So I was like, thank God I got school done, whatever. I had my lease for my apartment in New Orleans until like June of 2020. And I ended up being able to get out of it because I was like, I can't get stuck in New Orleans. I'm working at a bar down here. Everything's getting closed down. I don't have any family down here. So I basically had like my friends like hold some of my stuff, whatever I couldn't, bring back with me essentially. And then after COVID had kind of settled down, then I went back down there and did a big trip and just did a haul back of like all of my random stuff that I had. But yeah, so that was kind of that time frame. I started the business in April of 2020, and that I kind of had previously started, whereas like I did some cleaning in high school, and we still clean for my first ever client, which I am so proud of, and I love her so much. Her name's Tiffany, and she's just been so nice. And I started cleaning when I was in high school because I was doing the PSEO program, so I had a little bit more flexibility my senior year. So I had 2 jobs during that time, and I was like, I'm going to start cleaning. And I was like, I'm making $11 an hour. Like I'm making bank. Like this was like, like 12 years ago, basically. And, cause in comparison to, what I got hired at Culver's where it was like $7.25, you get $7.25 or you get $11 and you're like, okay, this is, so it's just looking at that is so crazy. But then, so I just started cleaning and I was, helping with, some of the kids stuff and, picking up and doing all this other stuff, doing the dishes, everything else. And while I was down in New Orleans going to school, I was also, cleaning for this family down there, ended up nannying for them as well. And then working at their bar that they had. So I've made a lot of really good connections, in different areas, but cleaning was something that kind of just came very naturally to me. I feel like my mom had us up every Saturday morning. It was like 10 o'clock would roll around and she's like, all right, TV off. We're, we're going to start cleaning, whatever. And we just had this routine. And she's always been very adamant about us, cleaning up after ourselves and doing our own laundry and doing all this other stuff. So it's like, I'm very thankful for that, because it's like, I'm like, okay, I went to school for business administration. I know how to clean. So I was like, that's what I'm going to do if I can't go to the Marine Corps, is I'm just going to start this cleaning thing. So basically in 2020, I reached out to all of my clients that I had been having in, high school. There was like 4 of them. And so from there, I was like, hey, can I get you guys on a recurring schedule? I'm, back in town. I'm starting a cleaning business. This is what I'm going to do, whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, of course, we'd love to have you back. So that's kind of how it started. And then I added, like, from there, it was just me for the longest time. And then I added like my sister, and then I, found more employees and everything else. And then my now sister-in-law, she's been cleaning with me pretty much since the start of the business as well. And it's just been it was a tumbleweed of like, I didn't anticipate this business to get as big as it is right now, where I thought I was just going to be like a solo cleaner pretty much, the entire time. So that's been really interesting to see and to develop. But then it's like, it's been a lot of learning, where it was just like, I wish I'd paid more attention in college, where it was like, I was just trying to get through the class. And then I'm like, man, what did that accounting class, I wish I could have remembered, what we talked about in that class and whatever else. But, yeah, I guess, we just hit our 5-year mark back in April this year. So, and that's huge, where it's just like a lot of businesses don't even make it to 5 years. Right. And I definitely think I'd be part of that statistic if it hadn't been for, my business coach, where it's like you said, we got stuck in a standstill, didn't really know where or what else to do, because I had always had that smaller mindset of, it's just going to be me cleaning and we're, whatever else. And I didn't fully develop like that thought of, okay, well now I have 14 or 15 employees, and how to manage them and how to do this and how to do your books and everything else, where it's just like, most entrepreneurs start something and they're like, I'm going to make some money and that's all I got to do. Right. And it's just like, I'm going to go clean, pick up the check, whatever, move on. And then it's like having like a business is just like, you learn so many things and you're like, okay, like who else knows about taxes and who knows about how to do this? And it's just like, oh,
and
gosh.
don't sell yourself short about not understanding classes. I really honestly believe that classes probably get you 5 to 10% of the way there. Mm-hmm. It's real world entrepreneurial experience that gets you there, right? And,
yes.
And man, I think of 2 things right now as we're talking through this a little bit. You said family, and I think when we had some conversations before, there was family members that weren't really a good fit for your business, and you had to go, yeah, this isn't working well.
Yes.
How do you feel about family members working right now?
I would say so. And I remember we talked about, so my mom always teases me because I had her working for me for a little bit when she was in transition of a job, and we were doing like a move out clean, and she missed some spider webs and whatever else. So now she jokes about it with me. She's like, I'm the one that taught you how to clean and you fired me and like all this other stuff. So we joke about it now. And my younger sister still works for me. And we've had our seasons of, I think now we understand how to work better together. Wow. Where it's just like, you can't have the attitude of, or, that mindset of, my sister's telling me what to do, or, that where it's like, it's not like a personal thing. It's a business thing of, if you're not, doing this to the standard, or if you're not doing that or whatever else, it's just like, you have to be open to more communication, and then also keep, family time separate from business time, basically, or business chats or whatever else. And it's like with my sister-in-law as well, it's just like, we have a great working relationship where she's very go with the flow. So she makes it very easy. But it's kind of the same thing of like, is it family time or is it business time? And, so I think it's very dependent on the communication that you can have, or open communication that you can have with your family members working with you. And you have family members.
I do.
So.
I do. And one of the things that I've had to learn, and Dan over there is behind the cameras here. One of the things that I've had to learn is like, and he's grown up with it all his life, right? So like, I would bring literally this crap home, your work home with you, right? Yeah. And I'm sure that he's like, back when he was younger, he's going, oh my God, I just wish he'd just stop talking about work, right? Like just focus on being here in the moment. And it's kind of funny because like, I'm just trying to think of it, and maybe he won't listen to this podcast, but there's certain things like, the funny thing is, I think Dan probably learned from his older brothers, and, and even Grace works here, but that's a different dynamic because she's actually a stepdaughter. Yeah. But she is like a daughter to me pretty much. Yes, but it's kind of funny because like, I think the best example is Dan. And one of the best things that I think that ever happened to me, one of the things that I was most proud of, but yet I'm not sure if I was proud of it because like, really? Dan would come back every summer from UMD to work as a helper on an install team, right? Yeah. And he was really good at what he did because he did it since he was like his junior, sophomore year in high school, or even younger than that, right? Okay, I hope I don't get in trouble for child labor laws, but he would go on job sites with me and he'd be picking up screws and cleaning up like the area like on a Saturday, helping me clean some of the work area like that we were doing, right? And anyway, so the proud moment was, I think it was a sophomore year or junior year. I think it might have been after COVID, so it might have been the junior year. I had an installer comes to me. It was like in August, and he was heading back to UMD, and he must have told him I'm leaving, right? And and the guy, that installer, comes into my office and says, I didn't know Dan was your son. He never told me. He's like one of the best helpers I've ever had, right? Like, really? But obviously Dan somewhat looks like me, and plus last names, but I think sometimes they don't tell him, like, this is my last name. My last name is Juan. I think he just knew him as Dan, right? And so that was really cool. But I hate to say this, a while back, way before Dan was still younger, he had an older brother that kind of worked, but he didn't want to do the outside stuff, but he would do office stuff. And while he was doing office stuff, he was really creative, and his brain was going elsewhere with what he wanted to do, right? And my current controller, Pata, who worked with him quite a bit, like he was kind of supposedly just doing data entry. That was his job, right? But he was trying to figure out how to do ways with the computer and stuff. And after he kind of said, it's not quite for me, right? I hate to say it because Pata was getting frustrated with them, and then I think somebody else was getting frustrated with them in the office because of phones. And I think at that point, my motto was, I will pay family to stay away from the business. And that wasn't an easy decision, right? But Dan actually kind of proved it the other way, right? Like he just, like when somebody works with all summer that has no clue that he's the boss's son, well, obviously he's not the boss's kid, right? Right. I don't know if it helped when he was younger because I coached him through basketball and baseball, and I always told him, you can never play like the coach's son, right? You never want to be that. Like,
you have to be the best on your own. Not with the help.
And not ever blame it on that. And I never ever want a kid to go, like one of the other his teammates go, oh, Dan's pitching again. Oh, Dan's playing shortstop. It's true. Boss's kid. That's all they have to put on there.
Well, and they have something more to prove as well. And it's funny because my daughter Raylan, she's going to be 2 this month, and I brought her with me and whatever else, and she'll take my Swiffer out of my bag, and she'll just like, she's literally like less than 2, and she sees me doing certain things, but I'm just like, okay, I can already see this happening. Like, she's got a couple different businesses to pick from because my husband has 2 businesses, and I'm just like, all right, which one is she gonna take? But yeah,
how fun. And nothing like working with family when things go well. And you talk about being open. Grace is done really well. Yes. She's doing a lot of business development stuff, which we need. She builds great relationships, and I'm learning from her. But one of the things that I'm learning a lot quickly and realizing that I gotta keep having an open mind is Dan is in charge of our marketing now, and I didn't realize what marketing was because, again, I don't have a business degree, right?
Yep.
And I don't know about marketing. And I used to think marketing was kissing babies and shaking hands and getting people to like you, right?
Yeah.
But when Dan started digging into the numbers
Yep.
and then explaining to me about, like, I mean, more recently, we just talked about it yesterday because we started talking about marketing and the messaging. And I have a slogan, and I'm one of those guys that don't think through details. I'm like, I got an idea. This is what we should do.
And then someone has to bring you down. You're
Yes,
like, you're the idea maker.
And of course, Dan's like, I think we got this backwards. I don't think you understand this quite like you should, Dad.
Yeah.
Let me ask you what your definition of a campaign is. And like, I started talking to him and like, aha, you're absolutely right. And so I think that helps keep me grounded. And I've been very blessed to have good people around me, not just my kids, but man, a team, like you said, you have 14 people around you. It's huge. And to be able to be a good leader, I think it's kind of the opposite way. A good leader isn't one that tells people what to do. Yep. It's actually being able to listen to them. Yes. Right? And I hate to say it goes against our grain as entrepreneurs because if we didn't have an ego, we wouldn't be an entrepreneur, to be honest with you, right?
No, I understand that.
And that ego gets in your way. And you're like, I know better than you. And especially that dynamic, I hate to say it, with Dan. And he's probably sitting there going, oh my God, stop talking about me, right? But my ego is like, what do you know, kid? You haven't been in this business as long as I have, right? But then yet I have to open up and go, I got to listen to that. Yep. I really got to be open enough to go, okay, what am I really doing wrong here?
Yes. No, I have so with my team, so I have two. So my sister-in-law is one of them, Nicole. And then I have a gal named Megan who we actually went to high school together. And she reached out to me a few years ago. She's now been working for me for a little bit over 3 years. And she keeps me in check where it's just like, for sure, where it's like, if I want to say something to someone, she's like, I think you should say it like this and not like this. Because I feel like the thing that her and I have talked about is like, I feel like I've gone through so many things where it's like, I kind of lack in the department of being more sympathetic than I like, you know what I mean? Where I'm just like, okay, like, you can just get through it, right? You know, type of thing where it's just like, it's kind of like that military piece of it. But then also, you know, I don't know, I'm desensitized in a way. And she's like, don't say that to someone. Let's change it to this and go about it this way. And it's kind of just like, you know, taking their input for different things of like, hey, this is, you know, happening. I think we should talk about how to make this better. And I'm like, well, I think it's fine the way, you know, and it's just like, just taking different perspectives in is like the huge thing. And I think that's important to, like you said.
Absolutely. So. And you know what? Before our egos get in the way and I say something stupid about one of my family members or team members because I have an ego, let's go to a break.
Okay. Sounds good.
Anoka Meals on Wheels, a nonprofit organization that I proudly support, delivers more than just nutritious meals to seniors in our community. They deliver connection, care, and peace of mind. Their volunteers don't just drop off food. They check in, share a smile, and ensure our neighbors know they're not forgotten. I know because I am one of those volunteer drivers. Help us keep serving those who need it most. Visit mowanoka.org to volunteer, donate, or learn more about Anoka Meals on Wheels, nourishing bodies and spirits one meal at a time. Tired of lugging heavy bags of water softener salt from the store? Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric now delivers premium water softener salt right to your home in returnable, reusable 20-pound containers to go green and light enough to save you from injury. Serving the north suburbs, we're your neighbors who know how hard our water is. No more running out of salt and dealing with spotty dishes and stiff laundry. Quality salt, reliable delivery, local service you can trust. Because at Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, we don't just keep your home comfortable, we keep your water soft and your life easy. Twin Sea Heating, Air, and Electric, now with water softener salt delivery. Call today or visit us online. If you're enjoying this show, we'd really appreciate if you could just take a second to hit that subscribe button. It helps more people reach us as listeners. And if you're feeling extra generous, it would be great if you could leave us a rating or a review. It really would mean the world to us, because if you leave the review, it will help other people find this show and get to listen to great other people talk about their stories. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Twin City Tales for behind the scenes content and episode updates and even more. And now we are back with Jackie Vvintre after all those things. This is the part of the show where we have some pictures sent by your mom
Okay.
on this one. Most of the time it's their moms, right?
Yep,
So
yep.
they're usually pretty tame and very cute. I should start asking friends, because sometimes, like if it's my friend, they will try and find the most embarrassing picture of me, right?
Yeah,
But-
I know.
So this one, for you listeners out there that is not watching YouTube, this is so cute. I just think this is like the cutest picture ever. It's three little girls, dark hair, in dresses, and just sitting in a row.
Mhm.
And you're about, what, 5, 6 years old?
Yeah, probably 5, 6-ish.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Is that your sisters? And was this like an occasion? Do you remember?
Yes,
or?
I think it was probably like Easter. So my grandma, the one that we talked about, the one that passed away, so she actually made us those dresses. And she was very talented with that. But I think this was like for like Easter is what I want to say in terms of like the colors, like the pastel and everything else. I honestly have no recollection of this actual moment, but it's like I remember that specifically in terms of like, so my older sister is in the purple dress, and then it's me and then my younger sister. But that's so funny. That's such a cute picture. Oh, I love it.
So, I was wondering, and I hope you don't get offended by it, but so what heritage are you? Because if you don't mind me asking.
No, so my mom is Salvadorian, so she came from El Salvador to the United States when I think she was like 10. And then my dad is Polish and German primarily.
Okay.
So, and then my last name, Vvintre, is French, but we got it from my dad's stepdad who adopted him.
Oh.
So I'm not French at all that I know of.
Okay.
But that's where the last name.
Yeah, because for some reason I thought that might have been there. But
yeah.
I it's like sometimes you don't want to ask.
No.
And,
Yeah.
and it's kind of funny because it's like with Asians, it's a little different, especially if you're Asian, because I can get away with asking people like, what kind of Asian are you? But I think if you're a white person asking like an Asian guy, what kind of Asian are you? They'd be like, I don't have enough middle fingers to give you right now.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely a mix of a lot of different things, I feel like. So
It is so cool. And I feel like the melting pot, some of the most beautiful kids are just melting pots,
yes,
right?
yeah.
I don't mean to be biased, but I feel like Dan is a pretty good looking kid, because with my Asianness and his mom being white, I mean,
Perfect
it's
kids.
not from the Asian side. He's good looking from the white side, I suppose.
Oh
or at least not me as Asian. He could have used a different Asian look.
Okay. Well,
Better looking.
everyone's so different. I know. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So the next picture, and now, going back to that,
Yeah.
does any of these sisters work for you?
So my younger sister,
Your
the
younger
one
sister?
in the yellow dress, so
Okay.
she works for me.
Was the older one the one that you said, I'll pay you to stay out of the
Yeah,
business?
well, that kind of, I would say she's thought about it a few times.
Yeah.
But she also lives in Leicester, so it's like a very far drive.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like that doesn't even work anyway. But I think my younger sister and I have a good, like I said, now developed. It went through a lot of stuff before we could get to the point where we were good working together. But yeah.
And you are
the middle child.
the middle
Yes.
one. Yep.
Yep.
So cute. So cute. All right. This looks like it was at a home show of some sort.
Yes. Yeah. So we did the Woodbury Home Show. This was the first and only home show that I've done. I hope to do more in the future. And I think this was 2 years ago, I want to say. This was like when we really started ramping up, business wise. And then my sisters came to check out the booth and everything else.
And that's your sisters.
Yes. Those are my two sisters.
And they're supposed to be the little sisters.
My little sister is the tallest one in this picture. Yeah. I don't understand. And they're both built very similar to each other. And then I'm kind of like the oddball of like, I'm the very petite one.
Yeah.
I ran out of ingredients somewhere, like something happened. But yeah, so this was, like I said, like a couple years ago, at the Woodbury Home Show. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. That's really cool. And now I can put a face with your sisters.
Yes. Yeah.
And again, it's your mom, so she's very prideful of you
Yes,
and your old.
I know.
And this is so cute. And that's like in Disneyland or something?
Yes.
Possibly?
So we were at Disney World. And so that's me and my husband, Matt. This was actually, we announced our pregnancy with Raylan, my daughter, who's going to be 2 this month. So that was during that time frame. So we put together a little thing at Disney announcing our pregnancy with her. So that was kind of like our big thing. And we went for my my nephew's, I think it was his 2nd or 3rd birthday, I want to say. But
How fun.
Yeah, that was very special because it's like we've only, like, as a family, we've now been twice to Disney. But it's like growing up, we didn't have a lot of family vacations or anything else. So, and I know that we're planning one for like Raylan's 3rd birthday. So next year we're trying to go again. But yeah, it was super fun.
So the last picture here that I have of you.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you're the one looking scared, but this must have been like a 3-4-year-old you.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Is that you?
No.
Is that you on the left?
No, I'm on the right.
You're on the right. Okay.
And if my mom were to explain this picture to you, what she would say is, so my older sister is on the left here. And she would basically say that I just hit my sister, or I did something to like make her upset. And then I was trying to like kiss her, make up for it. So that, like, where it's just like, I was always the antagonist of, I would start something and then I'd be like, it's okay. Like, whatever, even though I was like younger. Because, my older sister and I, we had like a different dynamic where I feel like my older sister learned a lot from me, where she was very hesitant as a child. And it's funny because it shows in our kids now, where it's like her son, Rowan, my nephew, he's very like, kind of like her, where he's reserved, he's shy. Like, he's like, I'm not going to jump, those 3 stairs or whatever. And then you have my daughter, Raylan, who's like half his age basically. And she's like doing this thing and she's acting crazy. And you're just like, okay, this is Jesse and Jackie, like, to a T. So
that is so funny. And it's amazing because what hit me was like, when you were telling me about that, like, you're used to challenges. Like, this was the beginning of your challenges, right? And I'm just like, another thing that I was thinking about was you were telling me about, because, you and I talk business and being fellow business owners, is you ended up getting a big tax bill. Mm-hmm. And that's quite the challenge. Would you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, of course. And this is still ongoing. So it's a long process. Yeah. And so it's, I guess, one of the things as a business, I guess, I don't know if you have a starting point, but I guess for me, kind of some background is like, for me, being an entrepreneur was, like I said earlier, going, working, collecting money, making a living for yourself, creating a job for yourself, basically. And there were so many things that I didn't know as a young 20, 21-year-old, whatever, when I started the business, where it's just like, okay, I'm, paying these taxes. I didn't know that these taxes were a thing. And then it's just like, there's so many different types of things. And so basically, when I brought in my, my coach, he was like, okay, where are we at with these things? Do you have the logins for these different accounts for like the sales and use tax and for, the employee tax and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, okay, I know where this one is. I was like, I have never seen this website in my entire life. I don't know what that is.
Right.
And it's just like, oh, then the naiveness, I will say, of a young business owner is crazy, where it's like they don't tell you when you open a business or an LLC, like, here's a book of all of the things that you need to be doing and all the different taxes that you need to be collecting for, and here's where you send it to. And if they do, I totally missed that somewhere. But basically just, I've been working with a tax attorney to try to, mend all those different things that I truly did not know about. And it's been a pain in the butt is how I'll say that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I know you and I share the same accountant.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
David Graff has done so much for us. I feel like over the last 12 years here for me, 13 years, 14 years.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's a long time.
Yeah, he's good. He's really good. Yeah, I admit he's probably not the cheapest guy out there.
No, but he's worth it.
He's worth it.
Yes.
I highly recommend anybody who does business, get an accountant that's well worth it. I mean, pay extra.
Yep.
Don't skimp and go to H&R Block.
Yes, I know. Yeah, or TurboTax or anything else.
No, exactly.
Yeah, no, you need that.
So if you can go back in time with that scared look or that the look like I'm getting after you here, what advice would you have for that young Jackie?
I feel like the biggest thing that I've struggled with growing up is just like asking questions. And I feel like that's a lot of things for a lot of people, where it's just like, don't be afraid to ask for help. Where it's just like, I felt like, with Sea Cadets and everything else, you always just try to prove yourself, like, especially if you're smaller and if you're female and you're just like in that, the smaller demographic of, whatever it is, basically, where it's just like, don't be afraid to ask for help or ask questions, where it's like, anytime that I hear anyone that's going to be starting a business or they're thinking about it, I'm like, get a business coach, get an accountant, start it right. Where it's like, if I could go back like in time immediately, like I wish that I knew those, or even find a mentor in business that knows or has been through, all these different things. So yeah, just asking more questions, put more into education, where it's like, don't just get through the class to, pass the class. And it's just like, just actually try to retain, some of that information, because it's probably going to come back. I don't need to know chemistry stuff, but like, I was going to school for business, and it's like, I really wish I paid more attention in the accounting and business law classes and all this other stuff. But yeah, so pay attention to when you're learning, like, look for more things to learn, because learning is like an ongoing thing.
Oh, absolutely. It's an infinite game.
Yes. And I feel like I definitely put a pause on that at some point, where I was just like, I don't need to learn anything. Like, I'm fine. And even now, like, my business coach is like, hey, maybe you should start thinking about like taking an accounting course, or, a bookkeeping course or something to like help you get a better grasp on what you're looking at, how to read a P&L better, and how to, read the balance sheet better and stuff. And it's like, I've learned all this information in school, and if I had only paid attention, then it's like, oh gosh, yeah.
And as you grow the business, and this is just my 2 cents worth, and I have to agree with you 100%. Mm-hmm. I wish 15 years ago I was smarter like you, because you're not even 30 yet, right? Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I'm 28 right now.
I didn't learn what you just said until I was 45. Get a business coach, get a good accountant, right?
Yeah.
Like, make sure you have all your ducks in a row.
Yes.
But the one thing that I feel like that you talk about is just understanding and really understanding business. So books, start reading a lot of books. Are you a big book reader? Or
I feel like with books, it's like, I like, if I have like a long weekend or something, trying to do something, I like buying books, and I'll start them, and then I'm like, okay, I'll get back to this, and then it never finishes basically. But I am huge on listening to podcasts.
Gotcha.
So if anything, I've been trying to listen to different, I love listening to, women business owners and entrepreneurs and everything else, just tell their story and how they got there. And then having them interview other, millionaires, billionaires, whatever else, and seeing what the struggles were and like learning from some of their struggles, their mistakes. And I don't know, everyone has such a different story where it's like we're all trying to get to the same spot, but it's like everyone's path is so different.
Yeah.
And I feel like, one of the major things is like, with being an entrepreneur, you really have to learn grit, where it's just like, I'm sure you've been there. I know I've definitely been there already in the 5 years, where it's just like, you hear a lot of entrepreneurs that like, they start this great thing and then they lose like everything, or they get close to it, where it's just like, how can that be prevented? Or it's like you go through phases of like, okay, I'm reinvesting everything into the business, so I'm not going to pay myself, or I have to put this on a credit card and that's not going to be great because it's like, it's going to hurt my personal credit. But it's like, you go through so much as a business owner that not a lot of people want to talk about until they've made it, per se.
Yeah.
Where it's like, they don't want to talk about it in the moment. But I feel like, when people go on to podcasts and everything else, then that's when they kind of talk about those things as, they're now, successful, whatever else. But there's a lot to learn as an entrepreneur. That's basically my summary of it is, just keep turning the dial for, learning new things. So
that's one of the reasons why I decided to do the podcast.
Yeah.
I think, people want to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
And people want to hear people's challenges such as yours and how do you overcome it, right? And they get one little bit of nugget and even just an inspiration, like listening to your story and going, oh my God, I've got like 3 employees that are about to quit. Man, life really sucks. How am I going to get out of this? I need to just quit, right?
Yeah.
But after like listening to a podcast with you on it and going through near-death experience and now losing a child and like, okay, it's not so bad.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? And those are the inspirations. And it's not just that, but there's so many different things that go along with that. So, yeah, I mean, and one of my closing questions is, who's someone you'd love to hear on this podcast and why?
No, we briefly talked about this, but I personally have learned a lot recently in just a few conversations with, like I said, Scott Vonderhaar, and he's your neighbor, so that's great. No, but we've had just like one major one-to-one, meeting type of thing. And he's, part of the networking group that we are. And he's got so much information where it's just like, he's a very normal guy. And it's just like the fact that he has his hands in a lot of different strategies, I would say. Like strategically, he's a very smart man that I think has a wealth, full of knowledge that a lot of people haven't necessarily like tapped into.
Absolutely.
But I think he would be great to talk to, where it's just like, I would love to watch that one to see kind of like his whole story, where it's like, he told me a little bit about, his business and everything else. But, I think he's got a lot to share for business stuff.
I think so too. Maybe I just take it for granted because yes, he is my neighbor and we do talk a lot, but yeah, he's got some great information to share.
Yeah,
man. Well, Jackie, I just cannot thank you enough.
Yes, thank you.
By showing you I can't thank you enough, I have a couple things for you. And actually, I changed my mind on one thing.
Okay.
But it's going to be cool still.
Ooh.
This is a mug, Twin Tails mug for you.
Cute.
And, of course, a trophy for just being awesome. And thank you for being you.
And it's got my name on it. That's so cute.
And
it's going in my office.
This whole podcast really is like, I think when people listen to it, you're probably going to make a difference in this world with your business and how people see how you do. So it's a little crocheted, little sunflower with you make a difference.
Oh
I have to admit, I'm going to, for my Yeah, this is going to come out right after the holidays, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it is.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to get a beginner's crochet kit because I saw one at the bookstore. Like you can make a little thing.
Yeah.
Because my wife loves making crocheting. So I'm going to give that to her for Christmas.
Yeah.
So that I can learn how to crochet. So
there you go.
So she doesn't really get the benefit of it, but she'll enjoy it.
Yes. Oh my God, that's so cute.
And then my last one that I have to change actually is I know you're not a big reader. Or you were saying you read if you have the chance.
Yes.
And we talked about building teams and stuff like that at our and I thought, what great idea would be, start with the why of Simon Sinek. And one of the things that I would do is I would read it, and then I would highly recommend like your team members read it because it really gives them the drive and of what you're trying to build, right?
Yes.
But I've kind of not just changed that, and I'm going to order the book for you. You still get that book.
Okay, perfect.
But the other Simon Sinek book that I think would be perfect for you is a book that Simon Sinek wrote that's called Leaders Eat Last. I don't know if you've heard of that book.
Yes, I have seen it a lot. I have not read that one for sure. Yeah.
With you having the military mind, and Simon Sinek did a lot of research with military groups, especially the Navy SEALs. That's where I draw some of my inspiration from about leading.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff, and how he talks about how leaders eat last and the benefits and the reasons why they do that. And that's how they build great teams in the Navy SEALs and in the military. It's a really good book. I highly recommend that book.
Awesome.
And I'm ordering it up for you.
Okay. So. I'm excited.
Yes.
No, I'll definitely. And that's great because perfect timing in terms of I have a couple days off set aside for the holidays. So I can actually take some time to get into that and everything else too. So that's
fantastic. Again, Jackie, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show on Twin City Tales. If you want to learn more about Jackie, you can visit her business website at www.Vvintre Living. So I'm going to spell this out for you because I always forget the extra V. It's LEVVINTRE Living, LIVING.com. Again, that's www.Vvintreliving.com, or visit us at the Twin City Tales Facebook page, and we will post it there. As we roll out of here, I want to say thank you to Chris Hockey for the use of his song Thanks, with obviously no pun intended. Fantastic musical artist. I believe he's going to be playing at the Chanhassen Dinner Theater with his band Fabulous Thunderbirds at some point coming up in their Chanhassen Dinner Theater music series. This podcast is powered by Twin City Heating and Electric, and until the next show, you can't go wrong with one Twin City Tales podcast.
This song goes out to my family, to all the ones who died before me. I'm sure the family life made you do things you never wanted to, so I wrote this song to say thank you for the breath that I just took, for the life my son will lead. I hope when you look down from heaven, that you are